11 days. That's all that stands between an ordinary online auction listing and what could become one of the most controversial decisions in modern automotive history. Sitting quietly on Copart's Miami yard is a wrecked Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, one of only 60 ever built. A $6 million hypercar reduced a twisted carbon fiber, deployed airbags, and a silent W16 engine that may never roar again in its original form. On paper, the numbers look like a dream. $1.5 million current bid for a machine once reserved for the absolute peak of automotive wealth. But as Matt Armstrong has revealed, this isn't a bargain. It's a trap disguised as an opportunity. Because unlike any ordinary salvage supercar, this Bugatti comes with an invisible barrier more powerful than damage itself, a manufacturer-controlled ecosystem that may refuse to support its own creation once it leaves the road. Blacklisted by VIN, stripped of official parts access, denied dealership cooperation, and locked behind a system of controlled scarcity, this Chiron Pur Sport is not just crashed, it is institutionally isolated. And that changes everything. The crash damage alone is severe enough to trigger total write-off classification, structural uncertainty, airbag deployment across the entire cabin, pyrofuse activation rendering the car electrically dead, and carbon fiber integrity that may never fully return to factory specification. But even worse than the physical damage is the economic reality that follows it. Independent rebuilders like Matt are not just facing repair challenges, they are facing systemic resistance. Reports suggest Bugatti's internal policies may restrict or outright deny parts supply for salvage vehicles, meaning that every bolt, sensor, panel, and specialized component could require negotiation, workaround sourcing, or unofficial channels just to keep the project alive. And when a manufacturer controls every critical system inside a hypercar, software, electronics, aerodynamics, even diagnostics, the question stops being can it be repaired and becomes are you even allowed to try? That is why this auction has become more than a bidding war. It has become a test of belief versus reality. Because on one side are hopeful bidders seeing a $6 million machine at a fraction of price, and on the other is a growing warning from experienced rebuilders who understand the true cost is not the purchase, it is everything that comes after it. Matt Armstrong, who has built his reputation on resurrecting destroyed performance cars others call impossible, has made one thing clear. This is not like anything he has faced before. Even if the mechanical talent exists, even if the workshop capability is there, even if the vision is strong enough to carry the project through months or even years of labor, the system surrounding this vehicle may simply refuse to cooperate. That means delays, dead ends, unavailable components, and potentially millions in hidden costs that do not appear in the auction listing. And yet, despite all of this, the world is watching because the implications stretch far beyond one crash hypercar. If a $6 million Bugatti can be bought, stripped, rebuilt, and returned to life outside its official network, it challenges the very foundation of modern automotive exclusivity. It exposes a tension between ownership and control, between what buyers think they purchase and what manufacturers actually allow them to do afterward. That is why this moment feels different. This is no longer just about whether someone wins an auction. It is about whether the system itself can be bypassed by skill, persistence, and public transparency. As the clock ticks down from 11 days, the tension rises with every new bid, every unanswered question, and every calculation being made behind closed doors. Is the winning bidder stepping into a golden opportunity or walking straight into a financial disaster? Will this Chiron become the most legendary rebuild in automotive YouTube history, or the most expensive parts donor ever recorded? Even Matt Armstrong stands at the center of uncertainty, weighing ambition against reality, content potential against financial risk, engineering challenge against manufacturer resistance. And as the auction clock continues its relentless countdown, one truth becomes unavoidable. Someone will win this Bugatti. But the real question is no longer who buys it. It's whether anyone can truly bring it back. 11 days. That is all that remains before a decision is made that could redefine how the world looks at hypercars, ownership, and the fragile illusion of control inside the luxury automotive industry. Sitting on Copart's Miami auction platform is a wrecked Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, one of only 60 ever produced, a machine that once symbolized the absolute peak of engineering excess, now reduced to a motionless shell of carbon fiber, deployed airbags, electrical failure, and structural uncertainty. A car that once commanded nearly $6 million when new is now sitting at $1.5 million in active bidding, and to the untrained eye, It looks like the opportunity of a lifetime. But according to Matt Armstrong, this is not a deal. It is a high-stakes gamble wrapped in prestige, danger, and hidden restrictions that most buyers will not fully understand until it is too late. Because this is not just a crash Bugatti. This is a Bugatti that may no longer be allowed to exist in the world of independent repair. The damage alone tells a brutal story. Multiple airbag deployments have torn through the interior. The pyrofuse system has severed electrical continuity. The carbon fiber monocoque may have absorbed forces that cannot be visually confirmed, and the car is classified as a total loss. But in the world of hypercars, physical damage is only half the equation. The real issue begins after the auction ends. Matt Armstrong has revealed a far more serious problem, one that does not appear in any listing, inspection sheet, or auction photograph. A system of manufacturer control that may blacklist crash chassis entirely, cutting them off from official part supply, dealership support, and diagnostic access. In simple terms, the car may still belong to its new owner legally, but functionally, it may no longer be welcome in Bugatti's ecosystem. And that is where the real conflict begins. Because a Bugatti is not built like a normal car. It is a closed system of proprietary engineering where nearly every critical component, from sensors to software calibration, from aerodynamics to drivetrain logic, is designed to operate within a tightly controlled environment. If that environment is withdrawn, the entire repair process becomes exponentially more complex. Independent builders like Matt are not simply replacing parts. They are attempting to reconstruct a machine that may require authorization from the very entity that no longer recognizes a vehicle as eligible for support. Every missing component becomes a negotiation. Every repair step becomes a potential dead end. Every system reset becomes a question of access rather than ability. This is why the current $1.5 million bid is so controversial. On paper, it looks like a 75% discount on a $6 million hypercar. In reality, insiders and experienced rebuilders understand that the purchase price is only the entry fee to a far larger financial and technical challenge. Estimates suggest that if parts were even available, which itself is uncertain, the rebuild could require upwards of $1 to $2 million in component alone, not including labor, fabrication, diagnostics, or unexpected structural repairs hidden beneath the surface damage. That means the total investment could easily surpass the value of a functioning Chiron on the market, if such a rebuild is even fully possible under manufacturer restrictions. Matt Armstrong has seen enough to understand the reality behind the excitement. He is not approaching this as a casual project. He is approaching it as a case study in modern automotive control systems. Because this is no longer just about fixing a wrecked supercar. It is about whether a private individual, outside of an official dealership network, can successfully restore a hypercar that was designed to remain inside one. And that question carries consequences far beyond this single auction. If the rebuild succeeds, it challenges the idea that ownership equals control. If it fails, it reinforces a notion that certain vehicles are never truly transferable in function, only in title. Meanwhile, the auction clock continues to tick. Bidders are evaluating risk in real time. Some see opportunity, parts brokers calculating dismantling value, collectors speculating on long-term appreciation, investors hoping for rarity-driven returns. Others see warning signs, restricted parts access, potential blacklist enforcement, and rebuild uncertainty that could trap millions in a non-functional asset. And hovering above all of it is a growing influence of public documentation. Every decision is being watched, recorded, analyzed, and debated by millions of viewers who now have unprecedented visibility into a world that was once hidden behind dealership doors and private service contracts. This is what makes the situation so volatile. In the past, a car like this would disappear quietly into a private warehouse or specialist workshop. Today, it is a global event unfolding in real time. Every bid shift becomes content. Every technical revelation becomes controversy. Every manufacturer decision becomes public debate. And at the center of it all is Matt Armstrong, standing between ambition and limitation, trying to determine whether this project is a historic opportunity or a financial and engineering dead end as the final days approach. One truth becomes unavoidable. The winning bidder will not just be buying a crashed Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport. They will be stepping into a confrontation between engineering possibility and institutional control, between what can physically be rebuilt and what is allowed to be rebuilt, between ownership on paper and access in practice. And when the hammer finally falls in 11 days, the automotive world will not just be watching who wins the auction, they will be watching whether anyone can truly bring this machine back to life at all point 11 days. That is a final countdown to what may become one of the most consequential salvage auctions in modern automotive history. Sitting on Copart Miami's listing page is a wrecked Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, one of only 60 ever produced, a machine originally engineered as the ultimate evolution of the W16 platform, once valued at nearly $6 million, now reduced to a heavily damaged, non-running chassis with deployed airbags, severed electrical systems, and a structural condition that remains partially unknown even after inspection. At first glance, the listing appears like an unbelievable opportunity, a multi-million-dollar hypercar sitting at $1.5 million in current bids. But as Matt Armstrong has highlighted, this is not a bargain waiting to be claimed. It is a high-risk scenario where the real cost begins only after the hammer falls, and where the biggest challenges are not visible in the photos, the listing description, or even the auction report. Because this Chiron Pur Sport is not just damaged, it is entangled in a system of manufacturer control that changes everything about how it can be repaired, rebuilt, or even legally supported. Unlike ordinary performance cars, Bugatti operates within a tightly controlled ecosystem where parts supply, diagnostic access, software calibration, and repair authorization are centralized. Every major component is tied to VIN-based approval systems, meaning that once a vehicle is recorded as a total loss or heavily damaged, it may be flagged in internal systems that restrict or completely block access to official support channels. This is what Matt Armstrong has brought into the spotlight. The possibility that a car is not simply broken, but effectively isolated from the very infrastructure required to restore it to factory condition. The physical damage alone would already be enough to challenge even the most experienced rebuilders. Multiple airbags are deployed throughout the cabin, including dashboard and steering wheel systems that require full replacement and recalibration. The pyrofuse system has been triggered, meaning the vehicle's high voltage and safety circuits have been intentionally disconnected to prevent post-crash hazards, leaving the car completely immobilized. Beneath that lies a more serious unknown: carbon fiber monocoque integrity, suspension mounting stress, potential subframe distortion, and hidden structural compromise that cannot be confirmed without deep disassembly. In any normal supercar rebuild, this would already represent a complex, multi-month engineering challenge. But in a Bugatti, complexity is only the beginning. The real issue begins when repair is attempted. Because every system inside the Chiron Pur Sport is interdependent and software-driven, meaning that even if physical repairs are completed, the vehicle still requires factory-level diagnostics, calibration tools, and authorized software access to function correctly. Independent rebuilders like Matt do not simply replace parts. They must reintroduce a hypercar into an ecosystem that may no longer recognize it. And according to reports circulating within the automotive community, Bugatti may refuse to supply parts or technical support for vehicles that have been written off, especially those that have entered salvage channels. If true, this creates a closed loop where the car exists physically, but cannot be fully restored through official means. This is where the financial reality becomes even more extreme. The current $1.5 million bid may look like a discount compared to the original $6 million price tag, but experienced rebuilders understand that acquisition cost is only the first layer. If parts were available through official channels, which itself is uncertain given the alleged restrictions, the rebuild could easily require $1 to $2 million in components alone. Add to that specialized labor for carbon fiber repair, bespoke electronic recalibration, suspension geometry restoration, and potential structural remediation, and the total cost begins to approach or exceed the value of a functioning Chiron on the open market. And that assumes everything goes smoothly, which in a case like this is unlikely. Matt Armstrong's involvement has transformed this auction into something far larger than a salvage listing. Because for the first time, millions of viewers are watching the hidden mechanics of hypercar ownership exposed in real time. The idea that a buyer can spend millions on a vehicle but still be dependent on manufacturer approval for repairs has sparked intense debate across the automotive world. Is ownership truly ownership if access to parts, software, and diagnostics can be restricted after the fact? Or is it a controlled system where the manufacturer retains ultimate authority over the life cycle of the product? And this is where the controversy deepens. Some argue Bugatti's position is about safety and engineering integrity, protecting customers from improperly repaired vehicles capable of extreme speeds. Others argue it is about control, maintaining exclusivity, protecting pricing structures, and preventing independent rebuilders from revealing the true accessibility of what is marketed as untouchable engineering. Because if a crashed Chiron Pur Sport can be rebuilt outside the factory system, even partially, it challenges a perception that these machines exist beyond the reach of conventional automotive repair. Meanwhile, inside the auction ecosystem, different players are already positioning themselves. Parts brokers are calculating dismantling value, knowing that even broken hypercars contain individual components worth hundreds of thousands of dollars on secondary markets. Wealthy collectors are evaluating whether rarity alone justifies the risk. And content-driven builders like Matt are weighing something even more complex: the opportunity to document a rebuild that could attract tens of millions of views versus a financial and technical risk of a project that may stall indefinitely. Because unlike traditional investments, this is not just about profit or loss. It is about visibility, documentation, and narrative power. Every update on this vehicle becomes part of a global conversation about modern automotive control systems. Every denied part request becomes evidence. Every breakthrough becomes proof of concept. And every setback becomes fuel for a growing debate about who really controls the machines we think we owe. And as the auction clock continues to wind down towards zero, the tension is no longer just about who will win the bid. It is about what happens after the win. Because once the hammer falls, the real challenge begins. Not buying the Bugatti, but attempting to bring it back to life under conditions that may not fully allow it to return at all. And that is why this moment matters. Because when 11 days end, someone will officially own a $6 million Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport for a fraction of its original price. But whether that ownership translates into restoration or becomes a permanent, expensive dead end is a question the entire automotive world is now waiting to see answered.